You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean,
watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles, and you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. It is Monday, January 7th. We are live right here for the next 3 hours. I'm Dean Obeidallah, hoping to be your MBFF. On Twitter, of course, at Dean Obeidallah. I was just sharing, if you were watching on Facebook.com/Dean of Radio, the live monologue. And later, in an hour or 90 minutes from now, we should have Colin Quinn in studio. We'll live stream that as well. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you were able to relax, have some fun. I was on Joy Reid show yesterday for several segments, and some people who listen to the show tweeted to me or made comments, and I appreciate it. It's always great being on Joy show. And a lot going on. Now, we're going to get to, obviously, the big and debunk, again, some of the lies of Trump around his wall and Sarah Huckabee Sanders and her lies. But last night were the Golden Globe Awards, and it was the least political of all the Golden Globes in several years, I would say. But still, the people on the right found a reason to be outraged, because on the right, they have two settings, victimhood and victimhood. That's all they got. Victimhood, victimhood, victimhood squared, perhaps. And so last night, Christian Bale, the actor who used to play Batman, won an award for his portrayal of Dick Cheney in the movie Vice. And it was directed by Adam McKay. Good movie. And so here he is making his speech, accepting the award, and first joking around about Adam McKay, the director, casting him because of certain reasons. And then he thanks somebody specifically for inspiring him to play Dick Cheney so well in the movie Vice. Let's hear clip one.
I've got to find somebody who can be absolutely charisma-free and reviled by everybody. So he went, that's got to be Bale in it, you know. Thank you. And for all the competition, I will be cornering the market on charisma-free. So what do you think? Mitch McConnell next? That could be good, couldn't it? Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
Thank you, Satan, for teaching me how to play Dick Cheney. Makes me laugh again now. But of course, on the right, they're not laughing. Oh my gosh. Anger, victimhood. I can't believe it. How dare you tell a joke that we don't like? Because we're snowflakes. We get upset, but we defend freedom of speech when we're demonizing races and women. But when you tell jokes about our beloved Dick Cheney. And here they were on Fox and Friends this morning, Brian Kilmeade, we cut it together, very, very upset about what transpired. First, they begin by telling you they didn't even mention Trump, almost seeming to be like disappointed that nobody mentioned Trump. And perhaps that's the greatest penalty of all for Trump, is to ignore him. But let's hear, it's cut together. Here's first Steve Doocy, whatever his name is, the co-host, and then Brian Kilmeade, clip number 2.
Nonetheless, Donald Trump did not get a single mention by name. However, two of the people on the stage did talk about building walls. And then there was Christian Bale. Christian Bale was cast in the movie Vice as Dick Cheney.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
By the way he portrayed it, he did make him seem like Satan by reports. Also made Rumsfeld seem extremely evil. The President Bush looked like a doofus. Condoleezza Rice totally was ignored, as was Karl Rove. They didn't say a word, evidently, in the entire movie. And Colin Powell was duped. So nothing accurate about this movie, but it was good enough for Christian Bale to play it and get an award for it. I don't really know anyone who saw it. Do you?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
Well, there you go. They didn't watch it on Fox and Friends, so how could it win an award, right? They're too busy at Fox and White Friends. That's the name. The actual formal name of the show is Fox and White Friends. They were too busy watching Donald Trump and salivating over every word he would say and tweet, so they didn't have time to actually watch a movie. In fact, if you watch the movie, Donald Rumsfeld, played by Stephen Carell, is not played in a negative way at all. It's actually kind of a likable, over-the-top guy. George Bush, played by Sam Rockwell, is played the most likable and fun guy. A little doofusy, yeah, but that's what George Bush was. And the weirdest thing is those who watch it actually thought Christian Bale humanized Dick Cheney a lot until near the end of the movie, and the script did as well. In any event, folks, speaking of, and I think it's unfair, though. I actually think it's a stretch to say Cheney is Satan. I would say Cheney is a liar who misled the American people that resulted in hundreds of thousands of people dying in a war in Iraq. Cheney is a war criminal and a war profiteer that should be criminally prosecuted for his crimes. That's accurate. Satan a little over the top, but that's comedy. That's how you make people laugh. Speaking of it, inspired by Satan, Sarah Huckabee Sanders won Chris Wallace yesterday. You can choose whoever the two that you think is inspired by Satan more. And here's the best part of it. Sarah Sanders fact-checked on Fox News. It doesn't get better. It does not get better than having a Trump surrogate spewing lies and being fact-checked. So here is Sarah Sanders helping Donald Trump build his wall of lies, and Chris Wallace calling it right out. Here's clip number 3.
The president talks about terrorists potentially coming across the border. And here is Secretary of Homeland Security Nielsen. Take a look.
CBP has stopped over 3,000 what we call special interest aliens trying to come into the country on the southern border. Those are aliens who the intel community has identified are of concern.
But special interest aliens are just people who come from countries that have ever produced a terrorist. They're not terrorists themselves, and the State Department says that there is, quote, their words, no credible evidence of any terrorists coming across the border from Mexico.
We know that roughly nearly 4,000 known or suspected terrorists come into our country illegally. And we know that our most vulnerable point of entry is at our southern border.
I know this statistic. I didn't know if you were going to use it, but I studied up on this. Do you know where those 4,000 people come, or where they're captured? Airports.
Not always, but
airports.
Certainly a large number.
The State Department says there hasn't been any terrorists that they found coming across the southern border from Mexico. It's by land.
Oh my God. And then she continued to lie. And Chris Wallace, to his credit, continued to fact check her for the Fox News audience, which was probably really confused because they like the Fox News anchors, but they love Sarah Sanders. And they are marinating in a stew of Donald Trump's lies to have somebody call it out. I imagine some Trump supporters were hitting their head against the wall because things didn't make sense. It didn't compute. Fox News is saying Sarah Sanders is lying. I love Fox News. Who am I supposed to believe? Boom. Put on maybe football, perhaps. So here's Chris Wallace continuing to fact check Sarah Sanders. Here's clip number 4.
Air, it's by land, and it's by sea. It's all of the above. But one thing that you're forgetting is that the most vulnerable point of entry that we have into this country is our southern border, and we have to protect it. And the more and more that individuals
they're not coming across the southern border, Sarah. They're coming and they're being stopped at airports.
They're coming a number of ways. They're certainly, I'm not disagreeing with you that they're coming through airports. I'm saying that they come by air, by land, and by sea.
By air, by land, by sea. Isn't there a song like that? Something. In any event, here's the amazing thing that they are coming by airport, and Donald Trump, because of his shutdown, has resulted in TSA agents, who are the first line of defense in some cases, not going to work. It's remarkable. So here's the reality. Let's do a quick fact checking right here. Chris Wallace helped us out a great deal. You have Sarah Huckabee Sanders, you heard it from her own lying lips there, saying 4,000 terrorists. Donald Trump has said similar things. That is a lie. L-I-E, lie. Lie. Fact-free lie. In July 2017, Trump's State Department said, quote, no credible information that any member of a terrorist group has traveled through Mexico to gain access to the United States. According to the Department of Homeland Security, this is Donald Trump's Homeland Security. They said most of the 2,554 people on the terrorist watch list who were counted by U.S. officials tried to enter through the airport, 2,170, or by sea, 49 of them. NBC reported right before the show, folks, literally right before the show, in the first 6 months of 2018, how many people on terrorist watch lists were caught coming over the southern border. Doesn't mean they're a terrorist. They're on a watch list. Their name might line up for another terrorist, close to the name of an actual terrorist. How many crossed the border they arrested? 6. I'm not kidding. 6. That's the number. NBC, breaking news right before the show. 6 in the first 6 months. Not 4,000. It's just lies, 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 lies. On Thursday, I was so proud of our special we did. It was our first episode of Teaching Thursday. We did a 1-hour deep dive destroying the lies of Donald Trump around border security. I would do a quick summary here for those that weren't here, but I've never received more nice emails or tweets about a segment. And we're going to try to do, if we can, every Thursday, the same idea, deep dive on a topic with experts. They weren't partisan. One was a former DHS person who worked there for 12 years, including a few years in the Trump administration. He gave us the facts. Here's a few of the lies. Let's quickly debunk them. How do undocumented immigrants get in this country? Donald Trump would tell you over the southern border. In reality, 2/3 of undocumented immigrants in our country, this is not disputed, 2/3 are overstays with a visa, meaning they come in legally. They've got a visa and they stay. Of the other 1/3, how do they get here? Some from the southern border, but some from the northern border. In fact, CBS did a report, which nobody covered a few months ago. Do you want to know how much there's been a spike in crossings of undocumented immigrants from the northern border? 142% spike. 142% spike in 2017. Trump doesn't talk about that. Now, the Mexican-U.S. border is about 2,000 miles. The Canadian border is 5,500 miles. We know why, though, Donald Trump won't talk about people from Canada coming over the border. Because to him, they look like people from Norway. And that's what he wants. He wants white people, not brown people. We know that. Next, so first lie, they're not coming over the border. They're overstays. Second lie, drugs. They're all bringing drugs. Here's the truth. About 85% of the drugs that cross into our border, come to the United States in terms of heroin, are from Mexico. The reality, though, is they're not coming over the swaths of land that are unprotected. The majority of them, according to the National Drug Threat Assessment, which is part of the Trump administration, the majority of the heroin flow comes through legal ports of entry, and they are through privately owned vehicles like RVs or trucks or cars hidden in there. So if you were sitting around and you really want to stop the flow of illegal drugs in this country, and you know most of them come through legal points of entry, not in the swaths of land unprotected, wouldn't you advocate maybe more guards, more Border Patrol agents, better technology there that's cost efficient? Of course, but that's not what Trump wants. He wants this wall for his base. Crime, the other lie. Donald Trump wants you to believe undocumented immigrants are committing horrific crimes in this country. As study after study, including the Cato Institute, which is libertarian, right-leaning, they found, quote, as a percentage of their respective populations, there are 56% fewer crimes committed by undocumented immigrants versus native-born Americans. Meaning you have much more to fear from native-born Americans than undocumented immigrants. Again, these are statistics. If you don't like the facts, too bad. This is the truth. You're going to argue around your own fact, make up your own facts. I don't give a shit. This is the truth. And of course, the biggest lie was that Mexico would pay for this wall. What I'm disappointed, and I said this on Joy Reid's show last night, is that the media has not pressed Trump on not only the question about why isn't Mexico paying for this, but Donald Trump for 14 months negotiated with Mexico over new NAFTA. 14 months. I want the media to ask Donald Trump, did you ever, in those 14 months of negotiations with Mexico, bring up payment of the wall? Did you bring it up? Because that should have been condition one. Donald Trump would attack President Obama and John Kerry over the Iran deal, saying, I would have walked away from the deal. That's what he said. I would have walked away from the deal. It was so bad. Well, then why didn't you walk away from new NAFTA if they weren't paying for your wall? Because you're a coward, Trump, and I doubt you ever even asked him. Not even once. And I want the media to press him. Did you even ask Mexico to pay for the wall during NAFTA negotiations? I'm sure the answer is no. And if it was, we asked, and they said, no, that meant you, art of the deal king, you failed. You told us, though, Obama should have walked away from the Iran deal because in your view, it was a bad deal. Why didn't you walk away from this deal? And now, tomorrow night, on national television, we might be stuck watching, and I'm not going to watch it, I hope, Trump's lies and racism on the big networks because he wants to have a presidential address at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. That should come with a warning. Warning, watching this will make you dumber. I wish that, it's unreal. Think about this, folks. He's going to have a national address to try to get on our networks. We own it. It's the networks of the people. Of the airwaves, I should say, not the actual networks. The airwaves of the people. To try to sell a campaign promise to the American people. That's not what these addresses are designed for. They were just designed for war, attacks like on 9/11 and the Cuban Missile Crisis. Big issues that are significant. Not, I couldn't fulfill a campaign promise. I couldn't get Mexico to pay for the wall. So now I'm going to give emergency. It's a national emergency on TV tomorrow and try to get the funds from the government that way. He can do that. It'll be litigated. That's maybe his way of saving face, just walking away and saying, I'm out of here. But the idea that he'll go on the U.S. networks, all of them, and spew his lies and his racism is horrible. And What I want to put out there is, how would you want the networks to cover this? They are going, from what all reports are, the big networks are going to give him prime time to give this speech of lies so it can help build his wall of lies, his campaign promise that he failed at getting Mexico to pay for, try to get us to pay for it. Why they're letting him give a speech about that, I don't know. But what should they do with fact-checking? I think they should put a little monitor, like for each lie, it keeps going up on the side, like lie 1 or 2. And so we could do a pool, like a national pool. And whoever guesses the most lies, you win valuable prizes. I'm guessing 42 lies right now. I don't know how long the speech is, but I'm going to go with 42. Or like a little box. Remember they would do like the hearing impaired and they have a person doing sign language? Like a little person in the box. And every time Trump lies, they hold a sign up that says lies. Something along those lines. Or maybe a chyron, like that's a lie. Or little thought bubbles. I'm lying. I'm lying. The American people should know when your president is lying. And our networks have an obligation to tell us. NBC, ABC, CBS, this could be an amazing night for journalism tomorrow. If during Trump's speech, they literally fact check it in live time underneath going, that's not correct. Because they know the lies. 4,000 terrorists, they can put the real things, real quotes. State Department said 0. You know, you can go through drugs, that the reality is the majority of drugs come through points of entry. The idea that undocumented immigrants are committing crime, put right there. Native-born Americans are committing 50% more crime than undocumented immigrants. If Trump wants to declare a national emergency tomorrow, I'm fine if he did it for the right reasons. 30 Americans will die by gun violence today, including 5 to 8 children. That's a national emergency. 70,000 Americans died in 2017 by drug overdoses. That's a national emergency. We have over 500,000 homeless Americans, including thousands of veterans who are homeless. That's a national emergency. There are senior citizens who can't afford their drugs because the pharmaceutical companies are gluttons. That's a national emergency. You want to declare a national emergency? Do it for any of those things. But not because you cannot fulfill your campaign promise to get Mexico to pay for a wall. That is not a national emergency. That's a Donald Trump base emergency. I get that. But the good news is, folks, he's sliding in the polls the last 2 weeks. And I had Trump supporters going, well, that's the same polls that said Hillary was going to win. I'm like, yeah, it's the same polls that said the Democrats were going to win the House. And we won it by 40 seats. So, yeah, polls have changed. So what do you think the network should do tomorrow? Do you think the networks should cover this? And it looks like they're going to. Should they also fact check it in real time, right there with chyrons or little graphics saying, here's the Donald Trump said this, here's the truth. I think they have an obligation to do that. That's what journalism is. And maybe going forward, they'll fact check every president in real time. I would have no problem with that. If a Democrat would go on TV and lie to our faces, they should be fact checked in real time. Same thing for Donald Trump. So I'd love to hear from you. 866-997-4748. What do you think? Do you think the network should carry this? It looks like they're going to. Well, how do you think they should approach it, though? What's the right thing here? And how do we counter Trump's lies on this garbage? You know, I'm actually kind of glad the Democrats have not countered with substantive issues on here's border security that we would do. But maybe that's part of the answer. Maybe they should be saying, hey, we're offering $1.3 billion, which they are, and this is what's going to go for. And this is how it's going to help our fellow Americans. And we should implement this money and see the results. What do you think? 866-997-4748. You're my guest right to the top of the hour. I'd love to hear from you. At this point, the question is not who connected to Donald Trump as a criminal. The question is anyone connected to Donald Trump who's not a criminal?
The Dean Obeidallah Show. Sirius XM Progress.